Hello, hello, Facebook family, YouTube family, Instagram family, wherever you're coming from. It's time for some stories of awakening. Come, children, come to the playground of life. Let's hear all the boo-boos and owies. I'm going to keep doing that. Hi, everybody who's joining. Let's hear all the boo-boos and owies. Let's hear all the great stuff and fun stuff, too. This Earth ride is no joke. And so if you're joining this show for the first time, this is actually my second episode only of doing this show. Stories of Awakening is my interview series where I get to bring on spiritual teachers, coaches, healers, and fellow travelers on the path who are very committed to this path of awakening and hear the real nitty-gritty details of what it takes to wake up. I'm really intentional. New word alert, new word alert. Ding, 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 ding. I'm very intentional about busting this myth that, you eventually reach these heights and, life becomes perfect. Perfection is such a myth. Perfection is in the imperfections, and the holiness is in the humanness. So let's bring on people that have really committed to this path, and let's hear it from them about what their life has been like. Hi, everyone who's joining. So good to see everyone. So I've got the amazing Brian Piergrossi online today. By the way, I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe below. Would love to have you as a subscriber. Okay, Brian. Okay, here we go. Brian is a friend of mine who is a deep eye gazer and gives deep transmissions just through his presence, just by showing up and being in the space. And I give my personal testimony on that one. He is a coach. He's a mentor. He's an author of 2 books, not 1, but 2. He's a podcaster, a workshop facilitator, and a father. And his son just graduated from high school. Congratulations. So his 2 books are The Big Glow and The Wow of the Now. He also has a very vibrant Facebook community here on Facebook called The Big Glow Online Facebook Community, I think it's called. And for the past 12 years, Brian has mentored people around the world to break through limiting beliefs and to live their deepest dreams. One more addition, he has a stellar partner, Annie, and I know that they have navigated the waters of their relationship in a super conscious way. So I'm also going to be asking him questions about his relationship and, how they continue to show up for that. What are some bumps in the road that have come up, and what have they learned and how have they grown through those? Okay, so bring it on, Brian. Here we go. Get ready, because here he comes. Everybody cheer. Everybody cheer. Hi, Brian! Yay! Hi, friends! Okay, let's do some deep eye-gazing presencing.
Okay.
To start, just so people can feel your vibe. How about that, people? Would you like some Brian love presence transmissions? I say let's do it. Okay.
I want to give a little, what's the word, like a precursor or a little explanation or invitation.
Yes.
I just want to say that what's interesting about what you're referring to as eye gazing and like the power of it is actually, it's not like trying real hard. It's just the effortlessness of being.
Oh, okay. The effortlessness of being.
Yeah.
Like sinking into a hot tub.
If you come in, you're like, you like freak people out. But if you're just like relaxed and in this state of presence together, I think that's what it's all about. Right?
Okay, great. So
I just wanted to share that.
I love that. I love that you shared that. Yeah, it makes it actually easier to show up for it, right? Because it's not about...
It's not this like, I have to do it the right way.
Right, I'm not penetrating you with my eyeballs.
Yes.
I'm more so just like slipping into this field and waking up into this field of pure presence and what's there.
Yeah, like I find like the the transformation, the healing, happens, the awakening. It's such a paradox, right? Because it happens for us when we're relaxed, when we're not trying, we're not making effort, right? So it breaks this whole interesting conversation of like, well then, if it's not about making effort, or it's not about like trying, or it's not about then what do we do? Well, it's like you just create a space that allows you to relax into yourself.
Okay.
Like how do you discover who you really are? The only way to discover who you really are is just to relax into who you really are, which you talk a lot about, like authenticity and being raw and being genuine and being in your humanness. So,
I got to write
so
that
yeah,
down. Wait, and I'm just forgetting it. I've got mommy brain today. Okay, so how oh God, you said, how do I show up for who I really am other than just relaxing into the present moment? Is that what you said?
relaxing into who you really are.
Into who you really are.
Yeah, because if you want to find out who you really are,
Uh-huh.
like you wouldn't find out who you really are by like trying to be who you really are,
Uh-huh.
because that wouldn't be who you really are.
Uh-huh.
The only way to find out who you really are would be somehow to just to relax into. It would be it's who you really are is there consistently. It's there. It's a timeless essence.
Listen, Brian, there are so many tangents that I want to go on right now. There's so many threads that I want to dive into just in everything that you said. But I do think this is really fun. Let's start the Brian Piergrossi interview by relaxing into this pure presence. So I invite everyone to join us, just to set aside what you're doing, unless you're driving or handling a baby. And we're just going to be for a few moments together. Yeah? Okay. Oh man, whenever I just drop into that pure present space, I often feel laughter and crying like at once. Like I want to laugh,
Hmm.
I want to cry. Um, yeah. What do you notice?
I think it's a really healing space. It's like we're carrying a lot of stuff
Yeah.
of various sorts, and so we can just like relax into this moment. I think relaxing in this moment is also a letting go, like you're naturally letting go of all the previous moments that have
Yeah.
come before this moment, and all your ideas about the future moments that aren't here either.
Yeah. And I feel like whenever I'm just really present with another being, their essence really shines through.
Mm.
And that's part of what delights me and makes me want to cry is, the juxtaposition of being so incredibly delighted by this person and then
Hmm.
so incredibly moved by, their pure essence, or at least I was with being present with you. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you. And I feel like my essence shines through the more like your to put it from my perspective, your
Mhm.
essence shines through to me the more I'm in touch with my own essence, right?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, that's a good nugget. Mm.
Hmm. Which is a great segue into the relationship subject
Oh
too.
God, already?
No,
Oh
I'm
my
just
gosh.
saying you can footnote, what's it called, bookmark that if you
We can
like.
we can sticky note that.
Yeah, sticky note that.
Put that up there.
Hmm.
So Brian, I actually wanted to start with this question. Like, what was the first time in this incarnation that you remember having a connection to something bigger? Whether you called it God or just a moment where it was like, connection to something bigger.
Hmm. Well, a lot opened up for me when I had an illness when I was 20 years old that
Mm,
was called chronic fatigue syndrome.
mm.
And so I was sick for a long time, for years, actually. And that's when everything opened up for me. So one of the main lessons I like to share with people is for people listening now that are going through a really difficult situation, there can be an opportunity there for your awakening,
Yeah.
you know. And I think this word surrender is an interesting word. You know, some people like it, some people don't. But it's pointing to something, which is kind of what we we're just talking about, which is a sense of like, there's something beyond me that is beyond the egoic, the attachment identification to the egoic sense of a separate self that is leading things, guiding things, making things move. You know, it's bigger than me, exactly what you just said. There's something bigger than me. So when that happened to me, or when something just really outside the box of what anything you thought was going to happen to you, it's like, oh, this little me that thought I was in control of everything just gets kind of like exploded open. And it's like, oh, I'm not in control.
What were you like before, the day that this happened? What
Well,
life were you living?
I think that this humbles you, right? So I think I was more kind of cocky, right? Young, as many young men are, and you just, and you can also be maybe a little bit spoiled or whatever the situation is, but there's something that's like, it kind of blows you open to something. I like how you said it, like bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like humbling you of like, well, I think this is the real spiritual awakening is I don't actually know what's best for me, right? It's like the opposite of,
Ooh,
it's
yeah.
like the opposite is like, I think you start the path thinking like, I'm going to find out what's best for me. Like, I'm going to gain knowledge. I'm going to gain this, and I'm going to tell everybody what the answer is to everything, but it's kind of like the opposite of like, you know less, the more you awaken, the less you know, but it makes you more open to the moment.
Yeah.
It makes you more available. So it's not like, I think you do become more intelligent, but it's because you're more available to the moment to access the intelligence or the intuition or, the truth of the moment
Yeah.
to come through you.
Marco and I call it, how we describe it, is higher self and lower self. And not that lower self is a bad self, it's just more of our human, animal ego body down here on earth, street level. And that the awakening process helps us to stop being overly identified or attached to that lower body self, with all of its egoic desires and lusts and all that kind of stuff. And instead to really surrender to the movements and the guidance of our higher self. And I think that that's what you were really nailing down. Such a funny word to choose. Nailing down in that like moment of surrender and it humbling you. And so you know less, but there is an intelligence, but it feels like a humbled intelligence. You're allowing something greater to move through you.
Yeah, I don't think it's knowledge based. For me, it's not knowledge based. It's not like, oh, I gain all these facts and all this information and now I know everything and this is how everything is. It's more like you really know less and less, and it's liberating. It's liberating. But there's an intelligence that's available to you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And people have different words for it, but I like the word intelligence. So there's like an intelligence that's available for you that's deeper than knowledge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounded like, if this was a long process, it sounded like it wasn't like lightning bolt hit you and then all of a sudden, you were in touch with this higher intelligence. It sounds like it was kind of a drawn out process. Can you walk us more through how you experienced it?
I think that there's light bulb moments, right? So there's a lot of those. But there wasn't just one big thing. And honestly, I don't feel like there's one big thing for anybody. I'm gonna have a take here on something.
No, I
Like,
agree with you. I think there's many.
Yeah, I think that my awakening was no. You sure you had a great moment. You had a great moment realizing who you really are. But I think the really interesting part of this journey, and I know like you resonate with this as well, is the integration process.
Yeah.
Right. So even when you're talking about like, I like when you're talking about like higher and lower. And it's like, there's this point of like, I think on the journey where you're like, well, I'm the higher self. I'm not the lower self. Get rid of the lower self. The lower self is bad. And then you get this part where you go, oh, all this lower self needs to be loved and integrated and honored as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
That
like
it's a portal. It's
Yeah,
not something to be
you learn to
bypassed.
like embrace all the parts of yourself, and that allows you to embrace all the parts of whoever you're encountering,
Yeah,
to really be
yeah.
in a place of unconditional love.
Okay, so so you're my second interview, and I'm noticing something that's really interesting with you amazing spiritual teachers is um, I have to pull a little bit more of the nitty gritty out of you. I want
Uh-huh.
to pull the nitty gritty,
Uh,
especially to men. This will be important. Men in their 20s that might be going through something and not really knowing what they're going through.
hmm
But like, what were some of your animal, human, egoic responses to what was happening? I mean, you're 20 years old and you're struck by the experience of chronic fatigue. I mean, that had to be super humbling, and you had to resist it. I don't know what was
Yeah,
it?
because you have an idea, like there's an idea of how your life is going to go,
Uh
you have
huh.
a sense, especially when you're young, I think even more so, you really have a sense of how your life's going to go. And then all of a sudden it seems like, kind of like the bottom falls out and your life's not going to go that way.
Hmm.
And I think that this can happen for people in a number of different ways. It can happen through getting divorced, or, someone very close to you dying, or a parent, dying, or just something, losing your job. Um, but something that's like, this is totally not the way I thought it was going to go, right? But this is what's so interesting about this to me is I'm actually really interested in manifestation, right? Like
Oh yeah.
the power of manifestation. So
Were you at the
it's
time too, in your 20s?
not in the way I am now. Like, I think I have a
Okay.
lot more wisdom around it. I'm sure I wanted to like make things happen at that time, but there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more of a kind of a wisdom about it now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, where I think doesn't get distinguished, this the distinction doesn't get made, is a distinction between the ego wanting something to happen, or this higher guidance, or this higher intelligence, or God, or whatever you want to call it, wanting something to happen. And it's really hard to like notice what's the difference between those two things,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, what have you noticed?
Um, it's like a trust. It's like a process of trust. It's
Hmm.
like whatever is happening actually is what God wants to be happening, right? What the
Yeah,
higher intelligence wants to be happening. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening.
yeah.
So you have to like just trust, even though you don't understand with your mind, like, why is this happening this way right now? Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
totally unexpected. And it doesn't mean that it's like gonna always feel good, right? So sometimes it might feel sad, or it might feel physically painful, or there might, whatever it is. But if you can just really be with it, and be what sometimes we call like the flow state, you
Mm-hmm.
know, be in the flow, be trust, be in the state of feeling like you're guided, or feeling like you're open to, just open to life.
Mm-hmm.
And then these opportunities arise, and like you look back 5 years and go, oh, now I see why that happened the way it did, because it led me to this point, to meet this person, and to move to this place, and
Yeah.
you know.
Did you have a moment in that journey of yours where you felt totally defeated, and then like what was the breakthrough?
Yes, I think that there's yeah, periods of feeling like, I guess, defeated, you could use that word, or depressed, or
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think that there's periods of that. But there's another thing that I think is interesting to look at, which is when I really let go. There was this
And wait,
interesting.
and how far into your process was that?
Well, I I started like, so this is happening on most on a physical level for me, right? So I'm
Uh-huh.
just looking for like I'm going to these different doctors looking for answers,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not getting any real answers. They just all saying different things, want to prescribe drugs of different kinds. And so there was this point where um, I realized I had to find out for myself what was happening for me.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was a big moment. And so then I started researching on my own, like what was happening. And I didn't, I wasn't really a spiritual person so much. I mean, on some level, but I wasn't like, you know, this is where the journey really began, like 100% give yourself to it, 100% commitment.
Yeah.
Um, so that's when I first learned about the mind body connection.
Mm.
And that was a huge opening for me.
Was it just your intuition that was saying all these different doctors' diagnoses, just none of them feel right? Or
the fact that they were saying different things was because they're all, like, even the term chronic fatigue syndrome was just a term that we started to use just because I was chronically fatigued, you know? So it's kind of a catchphrase for we don't really know what's happening with you, what's going on with you. Yeah, it just didn't seem, I guess part of it was intuition, but part of it was like just paying attention and noticing like they don't really know what's happening with me, you know? But that led me to explore my own and find this mind-body connection. And once I realized the mind-body connection, it opened up this whole other door because then that's when I started looking at consciousness. It's like, oh, the way I think and the way I look at things and see things affects my body, and that's the root of it. Then I need to start looking at how I look at things and see things and think about things and my emotions.
Now, was there like a book that you read, or was it just something around you? Was it something within you? Like, how did you start to investigate the mind-body connection?
That was kind of like all I was doing. Well, not all I was doing, but that was so much what I was doing was reading books. Because for two reasons. One is because I was essentially like bedridden at this time. So all I could really do was just read books. So I was like just reading books, and at this time, the internet wasn't really in its full glory yet. So books was the main. So I would just get access to these books from the library, and just like one book leads to the next book, which leads to the next book, leads to the next. Yeah.
So it was this whole like third eye-opening experience where you start to read that there's more going on than just the body or just the physical symptoms.
Well, say that again.
So, actually, let me phrase it in a different way. Was there a particular book that really blew you wide open?
I mean, the stuff that I was reading at that time, it started off with like, you know, a guy named Bernie Siegel?
Yeah.
Dr. Bernie Siegel. This is back in the day when these guys like, you know, the Wayne Dyer and all these type of guys, you know, Deepak Chopra. And then I started getting to teaching. So about the intuition question, this is an interesting moment. So this was kind of magical. So I kept getting this phrase in my head, yoga, yoga, yoga. Like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what is this phrase? And I kept seeing it like all over, you know. I opened up a magazine, yoga, yoga. So I was like, okay, I'm getting the message. I'm supposed to explore yoga.
Yeah.
So I go to this now again, this yoga is nothing at this time like it is today. It was hard to find yoga at that time.
Yeah.
But there was this yoga studio.
There, yeah.
There was this yoga studio where I grew up that I found, and I registered for the class, and it just turns out that no one showed up for the class except for me. Ooh. So I had a one-on-one private session with the teacher.
Oh, that is magical.
I asked her all these questions. She's telling me all these things about yoga and saying it to me. And they said, well, we also have this group that meets, one night a week, and we do meditation together, and we talk about these topics. If you want to join us, we watch videos, sometimes. So then I started going to that and learning about meditation. So then the whole Teachers of the East opened up to me.
Wow.
There was this moment that does stand out as a big probably my biggest kind of explosive moment. There was a book called I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj. And I would read that book like just continually, just kind of, because the way it was set up, you could just read like a little portion at a time. It was basically transcribing talks of this teacher from India. So there was this one line where he said something like, even your body is a thought.
Oh my God, I gotta write that down. That's so good.
And like the whole universe just kind of shifted.
Whoa.
And that shift happened from like, oh, I'm not before thinking I'm a person in a body, to I'm the infinite awareness having the idea in that little tiny moment of having a body. Yeah.
I read this Joel Goldsmith book, and I had a similar mind-blowing sentence read, which was, the consciousness is not in the body. Right. The body is in the consciousness. Exactly. And I just went, ah! Yeah.
Or people will say, you're not in the universe is in you, inside you.
That's a good one too. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So one thing I just want to highlight, when you were talking about that one-on-one with the yoga teacher, something that comes up a lot in my prayers with clients and students, is this notion that we are held. We are so held. We are so guided.
Mm,
So even in our darkest moments, we are being lovingly guided towards our next step, towards that which will bring us more love, more freedom, more, whatever it is we're stepping into. So, wow, what a moment of being so held, showing
yeah.
up to a yoga class and it's just you, and you're able to
Hmm.
really engage this teacher, this spiritual teacher for the first
Yeah.
time.
Well, there's something that I want to share about this time I think is really interesting, which is that, yeah, like there was this moment, there was a period of being defeated and this sense of, you know, just the stories we tell ourselves of like, why it's happening to me and
Mm-hmm.
why would this be to me and why am I so unfortunate and it's not fair, it's not just, and, all those kind of
Mm.
stories. But then when I fully like let go, it's a strange thing to say, but that's why I want to say it, is that it was this period where on the outer level I was in a lot of physical pain on a daily basis. Also, I
Mm-hmm.
had like really intense headaches and things like this. But at the same time, somehow I was in like an ecstatic state, like on a spiritual level, because
Mm.
I had just totally like surrendered.
Wow.
And then it was
Wait,
like
this was after that yoga class and all the books, or it was
it was like
during
during
that time
that
period?
time, yeah,
Okay.
because it was like I was like in this. It was like the it kind of reminds me of that movie Forrest Gump,
Uh-huh.
where he's just kind of like, now this magical thing happens, now this magical thing happens. That was kind of like you get in this like synchronistic state, you
Yeah.
know,
And it was
where
your
it's
first
like,
experience of that.
yeah, and so it's just like I feel like once I realized that like, no, this is what, because there was that resistance, right? It's all about resistance. You resist like,
Uh-huh.
this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening, this isn't what's supposed to happen to me. I was supposed to be going this way, not this way that it is right
Right.
now.
Right.
But once you just, whatever it is, whatever anybody's experiencing right now is listening to this, whatever it is that you think is like wrong or it shouldn't be happening or it's this, if you can just like, and this is the way it is, and there's
Mm.
a reason why this is the way it is, and you can just like surrender that and let go to that, then just magical things start happening. Like the journey begins.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's like you stepped into that. This is for me, not against me. Like
Yes,
just letting go of the
exactly.
idea that this is against you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have
Wow.
to know how it's for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to know
So
all the details.
right, right.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it figured out,
Yeah.
right? Just to lean into that.
Hmm.
So you're having this like ecstatic spiritual experience, and your body is still experiencing fatigue and
Yes. At
pain.
the same time.
That's wild. What was that
Yeah.
like?
I don't know. I think I guess what I want to say is like that's possible. That's what I want to share. It's like it's
That's so
possible to have
so
some
good.
disease or some, cancerous whatever, or even be
Yeah.
going through a divorce or going through someone dying. You know, strange things happen that people don't we don't want I always like talk about it because it's not like maybe it's not appropriate,
Uh-huh.
but you can feel ecstatic at times that are unexpected or maybe not even socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And you can feel depressed or, kind of down in moments where people think you should be feeling, happy.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yeah.
it's part of that thing of just letting go and like, not, not, not putting in the effort energy,
Yeah.
but just allowing whatever wants to move through you and being with what is.
Hmm. Hmm. And so what was on the other side of that experience? Like what were the big gifts for you, and how did you move forward from that?
I mean, so many, to me, I feel like all the gifts that I have came from that. I mean, it basically remade me. It like totally transformed me. Someone
Wow.
asked me like, "How did you?" Because I have a friend that's has basically chronic fatigue syndrome now, and they're
Hmm.
asking me, "How did you? What did you do? Do you have any tips or advice? Like, what did you do to cure yourself?"
Hmm.
Right? And it's like, well, basically, I became a new human being.
Mm.
You know, it's like I
Mm.
changed everything about
Mm.
myself. It totally remade me and reshaped me. But accepted and listened for the guidance, I think it made me just a whole new person, it accelerated my evolution, right? That in a way that was like way beyond what would have happened otherwise.
God, isn't that such a great that's such a great nugget right there, right? That's something that seems like such a downer, such a hard thing to go through, or something that surely this can't contribute to my success or my abundance or my experience of love, you know? And then actually it's the accelerator of it.
Yeah.
It's the lightning fast path.
Yeah.
Yeah, you being completely annihilated and then completely rebuilding yourself was the highest evolutionary path for you. That is such a great nugget. I love it.
But you have to look for the lessons. You have to look for the opportunity in the lessons.
Yeah.
It's like you had something called Earth School, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's the way I look at it. It's like we're in a school,
Right.
you know, and it's like you're getting taught, you're being given a curriculum, and if you learn the lessons, that curriculum will end. You know, nothing is forever. But if you don't learn the lessons, you're going to keep giving that that same. You got to keep taking that same class over and over.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And the trick though is that softly still. You know, softly, softly. Whenever I look too much for the curriculum answer, it's like I'm trying to fix it or I'm trying to figure it out, you know? And so it's softening and being curious and being available because the curriculum's teaching you in the moment. You know, you don't really have to look except be consciously open to what's there.
Yeah, to receive,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, and after that, did you write The Big Glow? Is that what came?
After that, I wrote The Big Glow. Not quite that quickly, but yes. I did write The Big Glow.
Nice.
But yeah, that's true. That was like I was taking. I would keep a journal, and I would be writing like just sometimes just stories of things that happened, but the main idea was what I was just sharing. It was to like be documenting the insights I was getting, or the lessons I was getting, or the new ways of understanding, or insights or epiphanies. So I just was was journaling for years, and then I just felt like I wanted to share what I learned and realized and put it in form of a book.
And when did that come out?
I believe it's amazing to think about it, but I think it's like 2008.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah.
Your baby's in middle school now. Your creative baby is in middle school.
That's right.
And as you released that book, did it feel almost like a completion of that cycle in a way? Or was it just like it keeps on going?
Yeah, in a way, it was like moving from student, like I feel like we're always students.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, I have something now that I can share, that I can give back to things that I realized. I was looking for these answers to all these questions, and I realized the answers that I can share and that they can be beneficial and supportive to other people now.
Nice. Okay, so we'll definitely put in the link for the Big Glow book so people can check it out. And there's some powerful, there's one writing in there that went viral, didn't it?
Love is the new religion. Yes.
Love is the new religion. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll definitely put the link in below so that people can find it. Okay, so now I want to leapfrog to the great awakening story, ongoing awakening story that is relationship.
Yeah. Sure.
So, so your partner Annie, totally beautiful inside and out, and I know from the outside looking in, I know y'all to be in a conscious exploration together, a conscious partnership together. And yet, this was one of the inspirations for this show, is that I remember when I was at Agape and Reverend Michael would come and talk to us. And I always wanted to know, like, do you and Ricky fight? Like, are you tell me the real stuff. Are you above that? Like, is my relationship crazy because we fight? I mean, when I become more spiritual, will I not fight? These were like real questions in my head.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So give us a little inside scoop on what the actual conscious relationship might look like, or does look like for you and Annie.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the fighting thing, because there was a segment of the last podcast episode that I did, which actually is a Facebook Live also, so people can catch it here. And the term I used was higher vibrational conflict.
Okay.
Higher vibrational conflict, high vibration conflict.
Okay. And
So
if someone was watching it, would they go, they're in a fight? Um,
they might, they totally could. But I think, yes. So I think that, so let me start with this. So
yeah.
I remember I had a session with this client, and she was telling me how bad her relationship was, and she can't wait for it to be over, and they're sharing a house, but they're just together because of the kids, and she actually is in love with some other person somewhere, some long distance thing, and so going through this whole thing, and just this relationship is so horrible. And I said, so are you guys like arguing, or are you like having a lot of conflict? She said, no, never, never ever do we ever, never fight, never have anything. In fact, we don't even really talk to each other much. We just kind of cohabitate in this house together, and we're just here together, and it's horrible. So
Yeah.
it's like
There you go.
horrible existence.
Yeah. No intimacy.
So that was really interesting to me. Yeah, that was really interesting to me. I was like, okay, that makes sense actually, right? Like indifference.
Yeah.
But then you have like kind of what we could say like low vibration conflict, which is when you're in your ego and you're trying to hurt somebody, and you're maybe calling them names or trying to get back at them for what they did to you, and like that's also really horrible, right? But then there's this other thing where I think like people just, do you have two? It could be a group of people or two people. Sometimes I notice it's like I kind of watch like I like to look at the way like sport teams, like how they interact with each other. So you can see it with like groups, or you can see it in the relationship with two people. It's like these two people, they care so much, like they care so much about each other, about their purpose, their own personal purpose, the purpose of the relationship. If they have children, they care so much about the children, that this is really important to them, and there's just a lot of passion and sometimes a lot of emotion. And they're just trying to find out what the best way like forward is. So I think there's still conflict, but I don't advocate like calling people names or trying to hurt people, or I don't think that's a healthy dynamic to be in. That's just verbal abuse.
Yeah.
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 But there's a way that you're still there's passion, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of in fact, it reminds me of a funny story of my friend I was staying in my friend's house, and him and his partner they were in the bedroom. It's heard a lot of like loud, sound like yelling, basically, happening, going on. And I didn't want to disturb, but I remember there's something I had to ask. There was a question that was really urgent, so I had to ask. So I just kind of, you like kind of knock on the door a little bit. And my friend opens the door, and he says, "Hi, we're passionately engaged right now. Could you mind coming back in about 10 minutes?"
Oh my gosh.
I said, "Sure."
Thank you for asking so politely.
But I love that phrase. We're passionately engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And seeing that that's okay, giving yourself permission to let the energy move. I think a lot of times when people get, it's like an immature form of spirituality. Again, not bad, just when the spirituality is maturing, where you think that any sign of anger is bad, or means that you're doing something wrong, but actually anger can be a really healthy expression. It can move the energy through if it's used consciously, and if it's not like, daggers at the other person. So what's y'all's experience with the whole color of emotions within your relationship? Do you make room for it all? Was that a process to make room for it all?
Well, I think like to me, I think you definitely make room for all the emotions, for sure. Happiness, sadness, anger. I think also make room for joy and ecstasy and bliss. And a lot of people are afraid of those emotions, more than we realize. So making space to be afraid, making space, for all of that. And then there's an interesting component that comes into this conversation, which is boundaries.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about boundaries.
I'm still learning about boundaries, right?
Oh.
Because to me, like in my awakening of consciousness, this awakening, like, this theme is about my awakening. So if I would say, what was the fundamental realization of my awakening, it was that there's no boundaries, that there's just absolute oneness.
Oh,
You know, so this
Uh-huh.
opening was just like, everything is one, everything's of the same essence, everything is the same as me, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then it's like, yes, that's absolutely 100% true still. And then the integration, right? So the integration of being a human being, the integration of being in relationships, the integration of being in the world, you know, and in this world of duality, there's boundaries. So then the question is, what kind of boundaries do you want to create? You
Right. It
know?
becomes a personal, unique to
Yeah.
each person. Uh-huh.
Yeah. What kind of boundaries do you want to create, listener? Because like that's up to you, what you
Uh-huh.
want to create, right? So I think for me, and they can change,
Yeah.
right? Like I can say, hey, I actually have new boundaries now than I did yesterday, and
Yeah.
I communicate that to whoever it needs to be communicated to.
That's a really good point. Actually, I just want to highlight that, right? That at any time you can change your mind, you can change your path, you can change your
Yeah.
needs. Yeah, really important in relationship.
Yeah. So I would say that my boundaries are already kind of set. I already kind of touched on them. I would say, um, if you want to use the word fight, I think fighting can be fun, right? Like even like
Oh,
wrestling, physical wrestling, stuff like this, right?
oh,
That's a big part of being a human being. But yeah, no verbal abuse, no name calling, definitely no physical violence, and be sharing from a place that's you're doing your best to be authentic and honest about what's alive for you for yourself. So if I'm talking, let's say if you and I, you know, something happens that I get upset about,
uh-huh.
I don't say
And we're
like
in a high vibrational conflict.
yeah, we're in a high vibrational conflict. You know, instead of like, you made me angry and why do you always do that and you always do this wrong and you always you no, I speak as best I can about myself,
Yeah, yeah, straight from
right?
the eye.
And this is where like teachings of like NVC and so forth really
Yeah.
become valuable.
Nonviolent communication, for people that didn't get that acronym right off the bat.
Yeah.
Nonviolent communication. Google it. Change your
Yeah.
life. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, you know, when I noticed you doing it, when you did this, I noticed I felt angry inside, and I noticed I have a need or desire for this,
Uh-huh.
right? Now, so like if you can really speak for what's happening, it's almost to me, I think of it like being like a reporter. Like you're just like sharing you're not making a judgment about it. You're just sharing what's happening for you
But yeah, yeah,
in the
reporting
moment.
on the scene as
Yeah.
as you're calling the shots internally.
Yeah. And you know, and I also want to acknowledge, because I think it's important to acknowledge that when people are really worked up or triggered, they don't always talk like this. You know, that's another
Oh
important thing to
gosh,
say.
yes. Oh gosh,
So then-
it's really hard to talk like this when you're in a high vibrational conflict.
So then there's this thing that is really challenging, but I'm learning to do it, which is translate. So if someone's kind of blaming you for something, or they're kind of coming at you, or when it makes you feel defensive, you can kind of feel underneath it and think, okay, well, what are they feeling? What do they need right now? You know, so you can kind of go underneath the words and kind of feel what's behind it, and make an intention to bring that forth in each other.
That's really compassionate. That reminds me of that Burning Man sculpture that went viral of the wire caged adults that were like fighting, and then within the wire cages are these two children reaching out to one
Oh,
another.
that's sweet. I didn't see it,
Yeah.
but that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, super sweet. Well, so was boundaries a big awakening when you met Annie? Like what would you say was kind of your awakening story within your relationship? Or
I
one
think
of them?
I'm learning to navigate the absolute and the relative. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yes, 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 yes. The humanness and the consciousness. It's what you're talking about. Like how to know oneness and that everything is one, and then also how to honor this individual unit of the one.
exactly. So when I first had this like spiritual awakening, I was kind of like, that's what seemed true to me, and this is very common, right? So there's many people will relate to this. That's what seemed true to me, and this kind of like this world didn't seem true to me. So I was kind of more just in
Oh,
the
that's fascinating.
the absolute, you know.
Through your body experience, you went up into oneness consciousness where that
Yeah.
felt way more real.
Yes.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yes, and I think because it is more real, and it's true. It's like that's the absolute truth, and this world of form is not real, but it is a reflection of the real world in the moment. So it's this crazy thing where, like, if you don't acknowledge this world of form in the moment, then you're actually not acknowledging the absolute either. They're actually
Whoa.
one and the same
Whoa.
thing.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
That's
So it is really deep. So, but I think, yeah, it's like learning to, as time has progressed and the integration is going on, learning to integrate the world of duality with the non-duality, the non-dual realization, learning to integrate the world of form with the formless.
Is
And
there
so,
any example that you feel is okay to share? Like, you know, doing dishes, you know, like having a conflict over dishes or something like that. Like how does that show up? Your
I
curriculum?
think it's like acknowledging the personal, because when from that awakened consciousness, the personal doesn't seem real. It just seems like illusion, right? So it's a fascinating topic because it is illusion, but it's
Yeah.
also what's real in the moment. Like to try
Yeah.
to resist it, actually, whatever we resist, persistence is made stronger. So it's like you're just
Yeah.
kind of honoring. Okay, this is what's showing up in this moment, and this is and also really important, which I love that you talk about. You're acknowledging your humanness,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I've been feeling into that. There's something I want to write about actually about this, about like what I desire now is it's gonna be this kind of essay that ends with, now all I desire is to be fully human,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right?
That's the most masterful task. Yeah.
Most
To
masterful, and
be with it.
in a way, the most magical.
Ooh, yeah.
Hmm.
It just naturally makes me want to take a deep breath.
Hmm.
Right? That's it's like the Wizard of Oz, that she always had access to home.
Yeah.
It was like it's always right here. It's
Hmm.
not about transcending the body or meditating so hardcore that you get up into the heavens and touch the face of God. It's actually just loving your sweet human, which is so masterful of a task to do, but just being present with the humanness. Oof.
Yeah, because the other thing is like a form of escape, right? It's like you're
Oh yeah.
resisting, which creates separation.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
this amazing thing where it's like actually in really fully embracing the world of form and really embracing the world of duality, that's the way you actually transcend duality. It's like there's that great line that's attributed to Jesus of being in the world but not of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that Jesus. Oh,
That
that
guy.
Jesus. He's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take what you said, like how that shows up often in our household. One of the ways it shows up is that Marco likes to leave things soaking in the sink that I deem as ridiculous to be soaking in the sink. You can just wash it. And so it's like showing up for that as just as much of a curriculum as an adventure in growth and love and boundaries and communicating needs as I would something really big. And I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, but it's kind of like, this great dance between, okay, I'm going to meditate and do mantras, and I'm going to have my spiritual counseling clients, and I'm going to, go out into nature and just feel really one with all beings. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to have a little, maybe not high conflict, but medium conflict, high vibrational medium conflict over dishes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this is what's arising, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. It's like a healthy thing. Like you want somebody, I mean, obviously the dishes, there could be bigger things that are more important topics, but that's an example of something where there's two different ways of looking at how to do something,
Right.
right? And it can be a source of frustration, but at the same time, it's like, that's kind of what we want on a bigger level. It's like you want somebody or multiple people, ideally, that are giving you different perspectives or different ideas of looking at things or different ways of seeing at things. And sometimes you'd be like, oh, I actually see like some of what you're saying, I can integrate that or I can implement that or they can do that with you. right? So like the more people that are looking at something from their own perspective, unique vantage point, and they're all wanting the best, solution, then that's a good thing.
That's really beautiful, Brian. I love that you just said that. Yeah, just using it as a vehicle for transformation and for love and for connection.
Yeah, and
Using it for intimacy, really seeing the other person.
yes, I think there's two things. I think yes for intimacy. So intimacy to me is like in the moment. So it's like we're not looking for a solution. We're not trying to get anywhere. And I know a lot of times this is where men can get, and some women too can get kind of stuck. Is like, let's just get to the end. Let's get to solve it. But like, if I can really share the sadness that I'm feeling with you, then I feel closer to you. Or vice versa. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
And that's fulfillment, and that itself is more than enough.
Yeah. Or
Right?
anger, or agitation,
Yeah.
or frustration. If you can
Yes,
share it
whatever's there.
purely.
Whatever's
Yeah.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And then there's this other thing where it's like, hey, I'm trying to like find a solution to this problem, And if I have a partner that can lend their perspective, or I have like 5 like really close friends, or 6 or 7 or 8, then that'll help me to find the best solution if I'm trying to do it all myself.
Ooh. Yeah, where two or more are gathered.
Yeah.
There's an amplification. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank Annie for being a part of this conversation too, and her energy and the discoveries that y'all are having together. And before we wrap up, I want to ask one more interview question, and then I want to talk about what you do and how people reach you. So what's a message that you feel really called to give everyone today? If you could leave one message that you feel called to say, one principle, one, for someone that might be struggling with their own journey, whether in relationship or, in their own health journey, like what's a message from your own journey?
Well, what's coming through is to love yourself as you are, to really love yourself as you are, and to just notice all the different parts of yourself, the parts that may be considered like bad or not holy, or lower vibration, or all these names and terms that we have for different things, and just to be able to notice and honor those aspects of yourself. And that really opens up a space of just this other level of unconditional love. And that can be helpful sometimes. Working with a coach or working with someone who you can talk to helps to do that. I know it's helped for me, and it helps for people I work with, helps, I know you help people in that way. So that kind of brings this deeper level of wholeness, into being. And then that's where the transformation happens. That's where the shifts, the openings, the movement happens. So it's like this paradox of when you really love yourself as you are, then you change into something even greater and better. And if you're doing that throughout the day, you're loving yourself as you are, then you keep changing into something greater and greater and greater. And so your evolution is fueled through loving yourself as you are.
Oh, that's a powerful message. One of the most powerful ones that there is, just loving the self. Okay. And I decided one more question. And I wanted to, so this is kind of a fun question. And
I love fun questions.
Yeah. And okay. Well, then see, I have these I had, what's that thing called, the Actor Studio? And I was trying to come up with 5 fun little questions to ask at the end of the person. And I don't think I've nailed them down. I didn't expect to say them today, but these will be shorty little answers. Okay, ready?
All right. Yep.
We'll move through them. We'll see what's fun.
Okay.
What's your favorite sound on earth?
My favorite sound on earth. Well, since we're talking about relationships, there's a sound that happens when there's a really ecstatic state. with your lover.
Uh-huh.
That's my favorite sound on earth.
What's one thing about your physical body that you're so glad you got to experience in this incarnation?
I just think that moving the body in general, like just the movement of the body, it puts us into an ecstatic state, and that we're not accessing that enough. You know, I think in where we are now in our civilization and it's like we're just kind of static a lot. So moving my body is a real gift, and it's a way you can access it at any time and connect to the breath as well, and it shifts your state.
Okay, what's a woo-woo talent that you have that maybe you don't talk about all the time?
I definitely don't talk about woo-woo talents that I have too often. Healing. Oh, yes.
Healing.
That's a good question. Yeah, I've healed people, but I don't actually. But I don't actually. The truth is, like, they heal themselves through being open and receptive. So it's like a relationship.
Right, but you
Yeah.
were a vehicle
But I've done.
in that.
Yeah, I've done sessions with people that have had physical ailments, and they have been relieved of those physical ailments afterwards, or even non-sessions, just spontaneous things.
Okay, so if you get to pick something to experience in your next incarnation, if you have one, whether on Earth or someplace else, what would that be?
I've been thinking a lot about gender and like masculine and feminine. So all these questions. If you ask me again in 5 minutes, there'd probably be different answers.
Yeah.
But in this moment, it feels like it would be fun to like see what it's like to be a woman.
Do you think you've been a woman before already?
Yeah, I'm sure that I have, but
Yeah.
But next time.
Okay, and final one in this one. So, what's something you're gonna miss about Earth?
I think Earth is really beautiful. The nature of Earth, the trees and the mountains and the rivers and the lakes and the stars and yeah. I think that we don't. I think it's like I want to say that so that we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like notice it.
Yeah.
Right? Like last night we were driving. I was actually with my son and we were driving. It's about an hour drive, but just the cloudscape was just phenomenal, just incredible. It's just like, wow, look how beautiful this Earth is. And then these rainbows popped up, double rainbow on the right side with all these beautiful clouds. Yeah, it's like we have these gifts around us of like, and we don't have rainbows every day, but like this beautiful, just like you don't have to pay any money for it. It's just like right there,
Yeah.
And it's like a gift that brings you into the moment, in the present moment.
I love it. I would probably say something similar. All right, Brian. So thank you so much for being one of my very first guests and for getting into the nitty gritty as well as the bliss and the joy and the awakening of it all. So how can people find you? How can people work with you?
Well, first, I think you might be like the new Oprah. I think you're pretty.
Oh my God. I can't even. I don't think I can handle that.
You're pretty good at this.
Aw, thank you.
Because you have a great like curiosity, So I think that really is. Like,
oh, thank you. That's
pretty
much the biggest compliment I could receive. So thank you.
Yeah. So how to find me? Well, we're on Facebook. People watch on YouTube and other places too. But if you're on Facebook, you can actually just connect with me directly through here. You can private message me. Also, my website is my name, brianpiergrossi.com or thebigglow.com. And I'm offering personal coaching sessions. There's some different packages. So just reach out and happy to support you.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you so much, Brian. And I just want to tell everyone that's watching, if you could use deeper support, please reach out. And whether it's to Brian or to me, I can help you find that practitioner that you really feel aligned with working with. Brian is a part of a team, a web of light with Practical Mystics. So just know that that I am a safe harbor for you to reach out to and connect with your perfect person. And if you feel a vibe with Brian, he has my absolute full support. He's an amazing being who brings a lot of love and healing and authenticity with his work, which I think is so needed. Thank you, Brian, for your presence and your magic and your wonderment and all the wise nuggets that you shared with us today.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, bye. Bye, everyone.